Welcome to Sales Talk for CEOs. I'm glad you're here. I'll be interviewing CEOs who have successfully scaled their B2B sales organization. In each episode, I'll start by uncovering the sales background of each CEO, dig into the strategies they use to build their sales organization, and wrap it up with what the future holds. We'll cover the good, the bad, and the ugly of scaling a sales organization. I'm your host, Alice Hyman. Hi, I'm Alice Hyman. Welcome to Sales Talk for CEOs. I am really excited to have my good friend, Jon Ferrara here. He is the CEO of Nimble, and some of you, of course, from back in the day will remember Goldmine, the first company that he founded. And we are going to talk about how he built sales, both at Goldmine and at Nimble. Welcome, Jon.
Thank you, Alice. I'm so excited to be here on your podcast. I'm really excited about what you're doing with CEOs, how you're discussing how they are scaling and dealing with the most important thing you do at a company, sell.
Yes. It is really one of the most important things. I mean, there's a lot of things that have to go on, and CEOs wear many hats, as you well know. But if you take your eye off the sales piece, things are not going to go well. So it's really important for CEOs to understand their role in sales and how that changes as their company grows and matures. So I want to start with your backstory because it's a good one, Jon. So how did you get to where you are today and founding Nimble?
Well, I think it really starts with our first company that I co-founded called Goldmine. And I started that company really out of our personal need. I struggled as a salesperson. I was working for a startup out of Boston in their field office in Dallas. I was part of a team of people. They had 15 district offices, and we were selling to enterprise companies. And they gave me leads, which weren't really leads. They were phone numbers of IT people at big corporations. And I'd cold call them. I'd make notes on the piece of paper. I'd put my forecast in a spreadsheet. I put my appointments in my day timer. And that was SFA, CRM, contact management, et cetera, because Salesforce and Outlook didn't exist. Imagine that. This was back in the DOS days, and there was email, there was calendar, but there was no contact connected to email and calendar, let alone for a team. And you need at least that for basic contact management, email, contact, and calendar. And then you need sales and market automation components because you got to outreach to people with some sort of automation, I hope. And then you got to basically manage your pipeline effectively. And so I struggled with all that because I had a computer science background, because I worked my way through my computer science degree at a Computerland store. I knew every software program on the market, and there were only 300 business programs at the time. None of them were networkable. And what I wanted was really a blend of email, contact, and calendar, and sales and market automation. I couldn't find it, so I was too young and dumb to know any better. I quit my job, and I started Goldmine. We started on $5,000, never took a dime of venture. And from that apartment in Los Angeles, we scaled it to about, probably 2-3 million customers, north of $100 million a year in revenue. And we did it by really identifying the trusted advisor of our prospect. And at that time, it was the Novell reseller, the computer network reseller, because we had one of the first networkable business programs on the market, and they had access to customers. And so what I did is I cold called every Novell reseller in the country, and I got them to use Goldmine because people sell what they know and they know what they use. And as I started building that pool of resellers who were using it and then selling it, I started hiring salespeople to manage those resellers. So first it was one, and then it was two, and then it was three. Eventually, I think we probably had 30 or so inside and outside sales reps who were managing our indirect channel. And the indirect was direct resellers who purchased from us, and then as we scaled with Microsoft, indirects that purchased through distribution.
Wow. So back in the day at Goldmine, what were some of the challenges that you had when you tried to scale that organization with sales, with resellers, and then people to manage those resellers?
Well, I think a big part of it was hiring the right people. I think it really all starts with people. And then putting together the right process to empower them for success. And I think if you hire the right people, you build an incredible culture. You grow people. And if you grow people, they love where they work. And if they love where they work, ideally they love the customers and empower them to be successful as well. And really, our customers were those resellers. And so we built this symbiotic bond between the inside team, the resellers who then served the customer. But none of that really would have scaled if we didn't discover PR. So once the resellers sold to their first base of customers, they started asking us for leads. And, I didn't know anything about marketing. And so how do I generate leads? And so I figured out if I could access the trusted advisor of my prospect, where they go find information on how to grow their businesses in both business and technology information, then maybe I could scale the brand and scale the revenue. And so I started contacting the places, business and technology pubs that my prospects would consume. And I said, how can I help you write more stories about technology? They said, tell us how people are using technology to grow their business. So I started telling stories about that. And that basically helped define contact management and CRM in the marketplace and really pioneer that whole concept. And then we got more print and awards than all the other products combined. And that helped to really get us from that first $50,000 a month to $1 million a month.
So you had the challenge of, okay, now I have all those people who want to sell for us, but they need leads.
Yeah.
And you had to figure out how to creatively solve that problem. Not being a marketer, of course, you're thinking, how am I going to do this?
Yeah.
But you figured out that PR would help. And I think today it's an overlooked channel for marketing. I don't see companies doing that enough, Jon. I don't see them thinking, oh, how can I get some eyeballs on us by sharing content in the places where our buyers read, right? So thinking they post on their own blog and they do post on social media, but I don't think they're thinking like you were. Oh, what are my readers reading? And how can I get my words, of my helping words, not selling words, my helping words on those pages? Now it would be on the internet, of course, in front of those people who can buy from us. And so I think that that's key that you did that. And obviously it worked because you did generate the leads that you needed and you grew and grew and grew. All right. So fast forward, you sold that company and did very well. And so fast forward from the time that you sold the company until when you decided, okay, I'm going to do this again and I'm going to build Nimble.
Back in the saddle. So I sold Goldmine when I was 40 years old and spent 10 years raising 3 babies. I didn't plan to spend 10 years doing that, but in my first year after selling Goldmine, I got a head tumor and almost died. And from that process of healing, I did some spiritual work, and I came to the conclusion that I'm on this planet to grow my soul, and the best way to grow my soul is to be present with people who love me and help them grow. And so I decided to dedicate that time to being a present father, husband, and member of my community. And I'll tell you what, it was an incredible gift. It helped me to grow a lot. And I think it's rare that a man gets to actually be a present part of his family's growth. And I do recommend that any man or woman listening to this today think about the precious time, if they are raising a family, to dedicate some of that time to actually being part of it, because it's so easy to get caught up in the hamster wheel of life.
Absolutely. And then those kids, as we both know, are grown before you just bat an eye and there they are. And you're like, oh my gosh. So it is amazing that you got that time with your kids.
So segueing to, okay, once the kids were grown and in school, what do I do with myself?
Now what do I do?
And so I remodeled the house, and that was 3 years and a lot of work. And that got my product mind thinking again, right? Because when you're remodeling an old 1926 Spanish home, there's a lot of details involved. And really creating products is all about detail. So that was sort of like my workout to get me back in shape. And right about that time, I started to use social media, Twitter and Facebook. And I saw immediately how it was going to change the way we work, play, buy, and sell. Now, this was 2009 or so. And I started looking around for a relationship manager that would help me to manage the contacts I was building through social media interactions. Now, you have to remember, I was out of technology for 10 years. I had no brand per se with a large audience. And so as I started to use those platforms, I started to build connections and start conversations. And I wanted to reel those conversations in from those social media platforms into a place where I can manage them. Because
Right.
if you don't have your own personal CRM, then you're really missing out on an opportunity to scale, because you're branding your network or your net worth. And so I couldn't find a contact platform that was social. Really, the only thing out there was Google Contacts, because that was the only cloud productivity system.
Right.
And so I saw contact management was broken because Google Contacts didn't link email, contact, and calendar, and contacts weren't shared as a team. And a good contact platform should
Right.
share contacts across the team and link the conversations activity that you and the team are doing. That's the basic foundation of
Right.
contact management. I know, I invented it. So so basically, I started looking at CRM systems and saw they weren't about relationships. They're about reporting and command and control. And you have to understand the history of contact management and the evolution of SFA, Salesforce Automation, and eventually CRM, to know that Goldmine kind of pioneered what Outlook is, and Outlook kind of copied what Goldmine was doing, and it became the ubiquitous contact
Yeah.
platform for business. And so when Siebel built Salesforce, or Siebel built CRM for enterprises, and Salesforce kind of copied them in the cloud, they didn't build a good contact management system into the CRM because all the business people were already living in Outlook.
Right.
And so even though CRM stands for customer relationship management, it should stand for customer reporting management, because relationships are typically built and maintained in Outlook, and now more and more in social. And so that's what really prompted me to build Nimble, because I believed that your CRM should work for you by building itself from the contacts you already have around you. And that's in your Google contacts, that's in your Microsoft 365 contacts, that's in Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn, and it's in the business apps that your business uses, because right now there's silos in your business. So basically you have contacts in your sales, marketing, customer service, and accounting applications, and each of those are siloed, and the contacts that are in Microsoft or Google are siloed. So every team member doesn't have a common contact database that you could all share and manage. And so I dreamed up building Nimble as the pioneer of social CRM and social selling. I got LinkedIn to give me all their public and private APIs, integrated into Twitter and Facebook and Google, and off we went.
Wow. That's amazing. I mean, I love the way your brain thinks, but you're such a problem solver. It's like, I'm doing this and there's no good way to do it. I need to find a better way, so I'll just invent one.
Yeah, just
In
like
both
that.
cases, right? I'll
Yeah.
just, luckily your brain works that way though. You're like, okay, there's got to be a better way to do this. And you fit those pieces together, right?
Yeah.
And so then you were able to come up with what you wanted. Now, I know since the beginning of Nimble, you've made so many changes and improvements to it. It is just an amazing tool now. And so here you are. And now, how long ago was that you started Nimble?
I think it's coming up on 10 years.
That's what I was thinking too. It's about 10 years. So at first, you probably were doing all the selling. Back to that again, right?
Yeah, I mean, I basically started it in my basement, and it was,
Your newly remodeled basement.
yes. Have you seen my basement?
No, but you said you remodeled the
Yeah,
house.
there was
so-
no basement. So
Oh, yeah.
the basement is actually 2 floors down beneath me right now,
Okay.
and it was a driveway. So
Oh,
yeah, I'll tell you that story another time.
another day. Okay.
So I
So
started-
there you were in your basement.
Yeah. So first I have this idea, right? I don't even have a product yet. And so what I did is I knew I needed to build my brand and build the Nimble brand, and at the same time build a team to develop it. So I did both simultaneously. So I started to swim in the social river in the places where my prospects might consume knowledge about how to be better, smarter, faster in the areas of promise of my products and services. So Nimble would help people with social sales and marketing. And so I started swimming in those places and identifying people and content that resonated with me which would resonate with my audience. And I started to share that content, hashtagging the category, pound sales, marketing,
Yeah.
social, and then attributing the person's name in order to build my brand and build a Nimble brand. Simultaneous to that, I started reaching out to resellers that were selling CRM and consulting around that. And I started telling them my vision, and it resonated with them. And I started signing up hundreds of resellers. But the problem is these resellers weren't ready for the cloud yet. They were still on-prem resellers. And then at the same time, I started building a team to develop the application. And so it didn't take us long to get our first sort of prototype ready. And by that time, the influencers who I was sharing the content from started to reach out to me because I was sharing their content and commented on their stuff. They said, "Hey, Jon, thanks for connecting with me. You have an interesting background. I'd love to connect and learn more." And so we started these conversations. And so what happens is if you share content in and around the areas of promise of your products and services, those influencers will start conversations with you, and you need to reel them in to do one-on-one face-to-face like you and I are doing, Alice. And in those moments, you don't want to necessarily just start talking about yourself and your products. What you want to do is prepare before the meeting and learn about them and what they're doing, and then ask them some questions, and then shut the F up and listen. Because
let me pause you right there for 1 second, because this is so important, Jon. As the CEO of the company and the founder, you evangelized, but you didn't do it by spouting off about your products and services and what you were doing and how great you were. You did it by forming relationships and sharing what others were putting out there and working with that content and adding your thoughts to it. So you are then become a thought leader because you're saying, and how about this? And this is how this works. But you're commenting on other people's stuff and conversing on social media with them. Now, I implore CEOs to be the chief evangelist for their company, but many of them don't want anything to do with social media. But they can be, I think, and I know you agree, the chief lead generator for their company. That doesn't mean they have to do the sales.
No.
It means they draw people in.
That's right.
And then those people want to have those conversations that you were just talking about. And then you don't have to have all of them if you have a sales team, right? The sales team can have those conversations. But as you mentioned, that conversation wasn't, "Oh, hey, well, now that you're talking to me, let me tell you all about my product." It was, "Hey, how can we help each other? What can I do for you?" And and what I love about you, Jon, is you got to know the people. Like, we've had this relationship for years now. We got to know each other. You didn't just tell me all about your stuff, right? So I think this is a really key idea for CEOs to understand how powerful their presence is on social media and how powerful those conversations can be to help their company really scale. So thank you for letting me pause you, but I just had to.
No, I think this is like the secret sauce right here. And it's really important that CEOs pay attention to this. So what we did is we used the trusted advisor of our prospect in and around the areas of promise of our products and services, thought leaders in social sales and marketing. We use them to scale our brand by paying them forward, by sharing their content and interacting with them, and eventually having face-to-faces with them where we ask questions and let them talk. Because if you let somebody talk, you'll learn how you can add value to them. And then we suggested ways to add value by doing introductions or whatever. And naturally that person would then say, "Jon, I've really enjoyed this conversation. Tell me about you." and that's your opportunity to basically tell them about you and what you're doing. And eventually they became the advisor of Nimble. In other words, they adopted it in its early conception and added value to its development by using and giving feedback. And eventually they became our apostles, our evangelists. And so today, I don't think I'm exaggerating if I said there's 5,000 to 10,000 thought leaders in social sales and marketing around
100%
who love the Nimble brand because we've humanized it, because we have built the brand of our team members. So it's not just the Jon show. We build the brand of our team members who then interact with those influencers, who then build the Nimble brand and connect us with the audience. And by doing this simple process, we're able to generate north of 100,000 uniques per month through our website, who were self-converting into trial and into purchases. But simultaneous to that, even though I was building and scaling the Find, Try, Buy ecosystem, I reached out to my former resellers and started building relationships with them and hired some former Goldmine channel managers to manage those resellers and begin to scale the reseller channel. But they weren't ready. They weren't ready for the cloud. And I had to sort of step back from that whole process because Microsoft wasn't in the cloud and most of those people were Microsoft centric. And so I really leaned in heavy with the Google Apps Find, Try, Buy cycle and leaned in heavy on the influencer marketing and PR guerrilla marketing to generate the eyeballs, and really invested in building a team around that whole idea of social, influencer, PR cycle to generate leads, and then worked on the digital conversion so that the customers convert. And we got numbers that were pretty incredible, like from visitor trial 10% and then trial to paid 20% without being touched. And those are really big numbers.
Big numbers. You know, what's interesting to me is the way that you scaled Goldmine, right? You brought that into Nimble, but it didn't work.
Well, it did, if you think about it, but in a different way. So Goldmine, I asked as the trusted advisor of my prospect, and it worked because my prospects were using networks, and I had a networkable business application to sell to them, and the influencer was selling the network.
Okay.
But if you fast forward, those resellers were selling on-prem system, and I had a cloud system, so they weren't ready. But the influencer who was sharing thought leaderships in social sales and marketing were cloud forward, and their communities were cloud forward. So I did scale and build by using influencers at Novell, in the Goldmine, using the Novell resellers as the influencer. But in Nimble, it was the thought leaders in social sales and marketing who were the influencers. So it's the same concept, but I tried two different methods, and one worked, one didn't.
Genius. And this is what I think we have to realize. I mean, no pun intended, we do have to be nimble these days, right? Because we might try something, like you said, the concept worked, but not the delivery mechanism. So you took that same concept, but when you had that challenge, you shifted to a different delivery mechanism, but it was still influencer.
Yeah.
And I think, again, a lot of CEOs out there are not capitalizing on this. They have these customers that know them and love them so much and are silent.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're not sharing the way that everyone shares Nimble. And we constantly, all of us in your tribe, we all help each other. We're all pushing out each other's content. We're all commenting on each other's content. We're all sharing and caring, with the whole ecosystem, which makes all of us thrive more. And I think the message I want the CEOs to get here is that you can drive this at your company.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be some sort of extroverted, crazy person to do this. You just have to be thoughtful and share what you believe in and interact with the people that you want to interact with you.
Yeah.
And then it starts to work.
You have to be human. Really, honestly, it's really just it's the same interaction that you do at a cocktail party. You just do it digitally, and if you think about it, it applies to any industry. Every industry has thought leaders in it that play in that community, and the thought leaders could be vendors, it could be consultants, it could be writers about the industry. And if you step into that river that is digitally happening around your business every day, and you start to see people that resonate with you and their content, and you simply share it, hashtagging and attributing the name accordingly, and then listen and engage with the people that respond, and then you scale that to enable your team to do it. So it's not just your company brand doing it, but it's your leadership across the board. then you humanize the brand, and that scales the brand of the individuals, which scales the brand of the company, and it'll change your velocity. But there's more to the story, because even though we pioneered social selling and social CRM before they were conceived, we hit a roadblock. And the roadblock was we invested heavily in the APIs of social, in integrating to the places where people build and maintain those conversations. And it was great that we had the private and public APIs of LinkedIn, but then LinkedIn tried to buy Nimble. They didn't offer us enough money, and they wanted me to come build Sales Navigator, and eventually they cut the API off to everybody, including
Right.
Nimble. And Facebook cut the API off because they wanted you to go to Facebook to use it, not have people build UI and access the ability to do Facebook in other places. And eventually we lost part of our promise of social selling by not being the place where you live, right? So Nimble had all that built in, so you could live there and you can manage your signals and messages from LinkedIn and
Right.
Facebook and everything. And so about that time, Microsoft came out with Microsoft 365. And because I lived through the cycle of Novell getting killed by NT Server, I knew that Microsoft would eat G Suite eventually. And so one of the things that really helped Goldmine scale was Microsoft came out with NT Server, SQL Server, and Exchange Server, and they wanted to sell it. And what we did was we developed a third-party integration that drove adoption and sales of NT seats of NT Server, SQL Server, and Exchange Server with Goldmine Enterprise. And so we became Microsoft's #1 ISV, and they pushed the crap at us worldwide. So I knew that if I could layer on top of Microsoft 365 and add value to make it sticky and become a gateway to Microsoft's other crown jewels, Power BI, Power Apps, Power Automate, Azure, and Dynamics, that we could effectively become the simple CRM for Microsoft 365, which is a huge opportunity. So we started to build integrations with the products and relationships with the people, which got access to the programs. And eventually Microsoft signed a global reseller agreement with us, and we become the simple CRM for Microsoft 365. So they walk us into the distributors like Tech Data and Ingram and others. They pay those distributors to take on Nimble and push it to their resellers. Why? Because if you think about a typical reseller today, they're selling plumbing to plumbers. They sell IT infrastructure to IT decision makers. They don't sell business solutions on top. So they'll sell you Microsoft 365. They'll sell you backup and security, but they won't necessarily sell you business applications on top, because that's a solution sell that's selling to the business decision makers. It's a completely different cycle. And so for Microsoft to sell its crown jewels, which is beyond Microsoft 365, it's all the things I mentioned before, they need to transform those resellers into solution sellers. And Nimble is a perfect way to do that, because they can sell Nimble on top of Microsoft 365. And that is like an introduction to the other products, which helps the reseller transform. And so we're sort of replicating that whole strategy that we built with Goldmine, which I envisioned starting in the early days of Nimble, but the market wasn't ready. But it is now.
It's amazing because every time you hit a road bump, you pause and you think, okay, should we go over it? Can we go around it? What can we do? Right. And so here, social media channels are pulling back their APIs from everyone. And you're thinking, okay, well, I built this promise. Now what do I do? Right.
Yeah.
And then you had that aha moment again. It's like, hey, we did this before. We can do this again. Maybe you have to do it a little bit of a different way. And you got in with Microsoft. And amazing. I mean,
but there's one more key concept there that's subtle, and that is Goldmine was the place that you lived.
yes.
Think about this. It had your email, your calendar, and your contacts for your team, plus your sales and market automation. So we did web lead capture and nurture marketing, market automation. By the way, Alice, I'm not sure if you know this, I trademarked automated processes in 1993 before there was any market automation platforms. And we did the first web lead capture with multi-step drip marketing before there was a definition of that whole thing.
I did not know that. That's amazing.
Google automated processes Goldmine. You'll see the dates and the details. But the subtle difference is with Nimble, I was building it as a place that you live, because it collected all the contacts, the email, the calendar, and the social.
Right.
But because Outlook exists, You can't shift people from that. And because the UI of these social platforms has all of the functionality that you need, you're not necessarily going to, especially if you don't have the APIs to recreate it, you're not going to shift them from being there. So I started to build this plugin to your browser that became Nimble Prospector, which we basically bring your contacts with you wherever you work, because we live in our inbox, and now we live more and more in social, and then we live in the business apps that we use in social sales and marketing. So if you think about it, Nimble will unify the contacts from email, calendar, and contacts and social, plus the business apps you use in social sales and marketing, enrich them with people and company data, and then live back where you work. So when you open up an email, you go, oh, this is Alice. Oh, I talked to Alice last time this, and Michaela talked last time that, and this is what's pending. So I have context and insights. Context is the history of interactions that my team and I have had. Insights is who are they, what is their business about. And if you have context and insights, then you could follow up and follow through. And many times when there's an email, you need to do something, and you don't do it because you have to go to the CRM to manage that. And so basically, Nimble lives where you work. It works for you by building the records, and then it helps you to do the basics, which is follow up and follow through.
Love it. So tell me what your sales organization looks like right now today. How many people do you have either managing sales, doing sales directly, managing the channel? Tell us what your sales organization looks like.
So what I found is that customers, they simply want to talk to people about their problem, right? They don't want to be sold to.
No.
And so I think that the mistake that a lot of companies make is they hire these expensive salespeople, and they typically those salespeople don't really learn that much about the products, and they just try to sell. And I think if you hire, so what we've done instead of doing that is we've hired people with liberal arts degrees because they know how to read and write and communicate, and they're affordable. And we put them into our customer success team so they learn the product and they learn how to answer questions with the customers. And then we use those people to speak to qualified leads and existing customers to help convert them to customers, and then to help keep them and scale additional seats, and also to work with the resellers who are selling to those people as well. And so rather than hiring salespeople with business degrees, economics degrees, typical thing, and then basically hiring them to go sell, we're really there about service. So I believe that service is the new sales, and that if you simply engage with the customer at the cycles and points that are comfortable for them, and you have those conversations, if you're building a good product, then they will convert. And so we're using those people to manage both the direct leads as well as the indirect resellers who deal with those leads.
Gotcha. Because you have the find, try, buy model, which makes it very easy for the buyer. So one of the things I noticed today about many companies is they make it pretty hard to buy from them.
God, can you believe people that don't have pricing on their website and you have to submit a form to have somebody call you?
Right. And I mean, I get it. Some, big equipment and machinery that has a lot of, special pricing on it, or software that's more complex and has integrations that need to be done. But there should be some, standard pricing. And then, you may have something different than this, but at least you can get a ballpark of what the price is. So many companies who could and have very simple pricing structures don't even have their prices on because they are afraid or something. I'm not really sure what it is, but I'm like, your competition has their prices up. You put your prices up. Like, your price is your price, unless what, you want to hide it from us for some reason. It's crazy, but I get it. All you folks out there with this highly complex sale and it's hard to figure out the price, you still have to figure out a way to make it easier for people to understand how to buy from you and approximately what it will cost, because we're repelling people from us when we don't do that.
I encourage every CEO listening today to go be their own customer, to go try to buy from their own company, to cycle through the cycle. If there is a trial, sign up for it, and then read what it says in the app, read the emails you get, pick up the phone and listen to the calls that are made to you potentially, and pretend you're your own customer and evaluate yourself from that perspective. And I'm going to say that many of you will be shocked.
do the undercover boss show and
Yeah.
call and try to buy your own product, right? I think most CEOs will be very surprised at what they find. I know they're surprised when I do things like send them an email that one of their salespeople sent to me, and they're appalled,
Yeah.
and I'm like, well, you're allowing this, how did this happen, right? So we do have to really be considerate today of how the buyer wants to buy, and we need to be there where they are, like you said earlier, and we need to draw them to us, not by selling our product or services and pitching to them, but by caring about them and helping them and listening to what they need, as your customer success people do so well. And I think that if we can meet those buyers where they are and draw them in and engage them, they just simply want to have conversations with us. And some of those conversations will lead to them buying our products and services.
Yeah.
Instead, we're out there just doing it the hard way. Send more email, send more LinkedIn spammy messages, make more calls, and more is not working. We need to push that better button, right, Jon?
Yeah. Well, I think this really goes back to what I shared earlier about how we built the Nimble brand. I believe if you teach people to fish, they'll figure out yourself fishing poles.
Yes.
And so I think that what you should do, rather than saying how great you are or your products are, teach people how they could be great. Because people don't buy great products, they buy better versions of themselves. And what you should be doing is you should be telling your customers about how you might help them become better, smarter, faster. Give your knowledge away.
Right.
And if you do that, you become the trusted advisor of those prospects. And when they need your products and services, not only will they pick up the phone and call you, but they'll drag their friends with them.
Yes, 100%. I love that. That's exactly right. They'll drag their friends with them because they feel good about it. They want their friends to have what they have and feel good about it too. So let's wrap it up with, what does the future of sales look like at Nimble? What do you see coming?
Well, I think that for a lot of our customers, they're looking for a little bit more depth to the platform. So we're going to stratify our platform from a single price to a few different prices, with upscaling with some of the functionality, so that I could easily capture lead from the website. I could do some simple automation with it. We've recently added lead pipelines that enable you to put leads in a lead pipeline that are separate from your deal pipeline. Because if you put leads, unqualified leads, in your deal pipeline, you're going to hide the qualified leads. And what we're doing is building a process where we can identify those qualified leads and then engage with those leads and our resellers to start scaling them. In addition, we're building deeper integrations with Microsoft's crown jewels. So back in the day, we added Crystal Reports as an add-in to Goldmine in order to build the reports that our customers needed to drive their to report on the data that they're doing. And so rather than writing a report writer or creating tools that do automation or creating tools that do net new screens and custom fields, we're integrating to the Microsoft Dataverse so that any data you have in the cloud can be easily integrated with Nimble. We're building templates in Power BI for visualization and reporting, and templates for vertical industries in Power Automate, and Power Apps, so that we can cover use cases in real estate and mortgage banking and accounting and attorney law offices, so that Nimble can tailor to the certain industries automatically. And by doing so, it really opens up the power for our customers to integrate Nimble into the rest of their mission critical applications, which it then becomes ubiquitous, not just for the salespeople, but for everybody in the company. Because I still feel there's a missing contact database in every company. And right now, there needs to be a common contact database in every company. And that's what we're building Nimble for.
Fantastic. I can't wait for all these good things to come. It's going to be amazing. Do you think you'll have to change your sales organization, the structure of it at all, to support this?
I think that we'll have to have a little bit more process around who handles which leads and how. So I think that we definitely will be adding more people to the customer success team, and then building layers of people that can handle the qualification of the leads to the demo of the system, which are
Yes.
completely different sort of cycles in that whole thing. So yes, we definitely are going to get a little bit more sophisticated with how we handle leads, who handles them, and then who closes them.
Wow, always growing and changing. One of the things I love about you, it's just amazing to watch you go. It's just incredible. So as we wrap up, John, you've built two companies, built Goldmine successfully, sold it for a lot of money, got to take that time off with your kids, got this idea for Nimble. Never thought you'd probably start another business, but there you go, you did it again. And now you're going and growing. And what words of advice do you want to leave to all the CEOs listening to us today about their role in sales and what you really believe they can do to help their customers buy from them?
Well, I think I've said it, but I'm going to repeat it. I really believe that CEOs are the chief evangelist officers, that they need to step out and lead through building their brand in order to build the company brand, to engage with the community around their business, not just prospects and customers. At Nimble, I engage with editors, analysts, bloggers, influencers, third-party developers, investors, advisors, and prospects and customers of multiple types. And so you need to get out in the river. You need to connect and communicate and really help scale your business. If you do that and then build a team around you that can manage and handle the various constituents that you'll derive, because you're not just generating prospects and customers, you're generating all the different people around your business that it will need to scale, and then have team members who can handle them. So there's people that can handle prospects and customers, there's people that can handle influencers, there's people that can handle advisors, investors, third-party developers that help to add value, add features to your product that you're not going to develop yourself, other biz dev deals of people who can help sell your product like we do with Microsoft. All those things are places where you'll be spending your time, but then to have a team around you who can hand the ball off to and handle those things, so you could basically stay out there at point.
Lovely. I just love it. And I love also that the other thing you do, and you mentioned, is that you support and encourage everyone on your team to build their own brand, because it helps them and it helps the company and it helps the customers. So CEOs, get out there and evangelize, and don't do it yourself. Bring your team with you in doing that.
And it'll humanize your brand.
Yeah, 100% will humanize it. Well, John, thank you so much. This has been an amazing conversation. So many actionable things in here that CEOs and their sales leaders can do. I cannot thank you enough for spending your valuable time with us today. Just fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you, Alice. I really feel grateful that you invited me on your new show. I wish you tremendous success. I know that you will have it. And I really value our friendship. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I do too. It's just really terrific to have someone like you on my team. So I appreciate you.
Amen.
Have a wonderful day. And I know I'll be talking to you again soon.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks for tuning in to Sales Talk for CEOs. You can find me at alicehyman.com. Be sure and connect with me on LinkedIn and let me know that you heard the show. If you found value in today's episode, please subscribe, write a review, and share the show with another CEO.